everybody, this is Rebecca Jane from yogawithrebeccajane.com. Welcome to this 30-minute practice. So this practice is focusing on passive stretching, and then there'll be other classes based on dynamic, and I'll introduce a few others. Passive stretching is where we hold stretches for longer periods of time. We get to a point where it's kind of like the edge of as far as we can go with our joints, and then we hold that stretch. What we're going to do here is we're going to do a little bit of throw in a few dynamic stretches, because those two actually work really well together, the passive and the dynamic. If you're running, if you're going to exercise, or you're going to do a run or something like that, it's best to do more dynamic stretching before the run and passive stretching after. That's what they recommend, or any kind of athletics. With yoga, we can kind of play a little bit differently. So today is passive. I'll show you that. So something you would probably do after, if you were to go and exercise, this would be something you would do after you've finished your run or sport that you're playing. So passive. So what I'm suggesting we do now is we don't really need anything. We just need our mat. The reason why I was thinking, I'm having a thought. There are some blocks here that I have, yoga blocks for some people who have those. That you might want that, but I'm just trying to think. I think we're okay without them. But have any kind of props near you, just in case of. We're going to come into child's pose. You might need something for your knees, because we will be on our knees for a little bit to pad the knees. You can even take your mat and turn it over a few times. Otherwise, let's come into child's pose and let the knees open wide, big toes touching. That's for the hips, to open up the hips. If you have any lower back issues and you want to stretch out your lower back, then bring your knees close together. Let the arms rest in front of you, elbows soft. Forehead resting on something. This is where you might pull the block or something to place your forehead on. Flexibility. The secret behind maintaining youthfulness, no matter what age you are, is flexibility. So passive stretching is when we kind of we find our edge where we can't go any further, and then we let our bodies relax into it. So let's take one more deep breath in. We could be here just in this shape for the whole 30 minutes, and we'd be getting a stretch. Come up to all fours. Knees are under hips, wrists are under shoulders. Any wrist issues, come onto forearms. We're going to stretch. We're going to do a few dynamic stretches to start. Cats and cows. And this is a nice way to kind of warm up the back, warm up the front of the body. And then come back to stillness. And then we're going to press up into a cat stretch where you dome your back, pull tummy muscles in and up. And we're going to hold this. Pressing the ground away with your hands, the middle back, you feel it opening, and it feels like you're pushing it towards the ceiling as you press down with your feet and your shins. And then let's come back to a neutral spine, and then just reverse this come into cow. Tilt tailbone, let the belly soften, lift your chest forward. You pressing into the ground with those hands, with the shins, the feet, And lift up through the chest and the tailbone. Creating this space throughout the body. Breathing in and breathing out. And then come back to a neutral spine, curl toes under, press up, downward facing dog. Now in a downward facing dog, we're going to take a few little dynamic stretches. Bend your right knee and then your left knee. So that's dynamic. Move, and just loosening up those muscles, warming them up. And then coming back to stillness. Some of us, our stillness might be, your legs might be straight, or your knees are bent, or halfway. I want you to find the comfort point for you. Spread those fingers. If you have wrist issues, you do it on your forearms. That's actually harder than downward, for me anyway. Tailbone lifts, chest towards thighs, and then we pause here. And we breathe in and we breathe out. Now, this might get tiresome or fatiguing on your arms. You can come into child's pose if you need to. Passive pose. So think of where we're stretching. We're stretching the entire back of the body. While we're strengthening the front of the body, we're strengthening the wrists, the arms, the core muscles. Take one more deep breath in, and as you breathe out, lower the knees to the ground. Bring the knees together, and we're going to rest in an embryo. So the arms, you can bring those arms next to your legs. The hands can touch your feet. And let your head either touch your knees, or you can pull it a little bit closer in. And take a pause here. So now we're stretching the entire back. Take a deep breath into the back body and a deep breath out. Take one more deep breath in, and as you breathe out, come to all fours. This time, stretch your arms forward, press into a child's pose again, but arms are stretching forward, elbows are off the ground. So think of your body as two parts. From the waist down, or the hips down, is pressing backwards. From the waist up is pressing forwards. And that's how we imagine stretching. It's like we're creating this length. Take one more deep breath in, and these are opposing forces are working together, forward and the other one's backwards. And then keep your legs as they are, just walk your arms over to the left on a diagonal. Keep the hands apart. Take a deep breath in. Press the ground away as if you're trying to push your body away from your hands. And then do a little twist here. So you're twisting into your right side of the body, right bottom cheek towards that right heel. Opposing forces. Breathing in. Passive stretches tend to feel more achy afterwards. You feel sore because you're working deep into the connective tissue. So it goes deeper than dynamic stretches. And then walk your hands forward, stretch again. Take a deep breath in. And then as you breathe out, walk your arms over to the right. Hands are separate. Push the ground away as if you're trying to get rid of that floor. And then left bottom cheek on that towards that left heel and twist.
gazing towards that, underneath that right arm. Let the eyes close, feeling in. And the breath helps to soften the muscles and the fascia. It kind of uses that movement, that rhythmic movement to kind of move it around, very much like a massage. And then walk your hands forward and then come up to all fours. Let's take a few little sways of the hips from side to side, dynamic stretching. And then return to stillness. And I want you to draw the tummy muscles in and up and slide your right foot back, but keep the toes on the ground. All 5 toes are curled under, if you can get all 5. Get the pinky toe to participate. And press your heels back. Just do a few little tiny dynamic stretches, rolling on those feet. And then settle into your stretch, your passive stretch. Right heel presses back. Think about those opposing forces, right, in your body. Waist down, waist up, forward, hips down, backwards. And then tummy muscles pull in and up. So you're doing strength, you're combining strength and stretch. And hold that stretch. That right heel is pushing back, breathing in. It's easier to move for most of us. We don't like to be still. I'm talking about me as well. And then from here, come back up so that if the foot is it's curled under, the toes aren't, and lift the foot up now so it's the height of your hip. Kick your right heel back, toes towards your shins. Now tummy muscles, this is a strengthener. Strength and stretch are good friends, are best friends. And then bend your right knee and bring it behind your left knee and cross it over. So now the knees are, right knee is next to your left. Open the feet wide and press back into a twisted child's pose. One of my favorite stretches. And just take your head and dynamic stretch for your neck. A little stretch from side to side. And press into that left hip, right hip, breathing in. And then soften the shoulders down. And then walk your hands over to the right on a diagonal, just like we did before, so that you can get into that left side again, but in a twisted shape. Left bottom cheek towards your left, right heel. Obviously, it's your right here. And then hold and breathe. The wave of that breath, that rhythm, it's like a wave, softens the muscles, the fascia, and then coming all the way up to all fours and uncross those legs. Let's do a few little hula hoop hips, dynamic stretching. So as you see with yogis, if you notice that their bodies are tall, they're very toned, it's because that's what we're doing consistently in yoga, is toning our muscles so they're not like you would if it wouldn't be this. And then curl toes under, press up into downward facing dog. I'll talk when we get in downward facing dog. We'll do the other side in a moment. We'll just give ourselves a break. Open the feet wide. Open the hands wide. So about as wide as the mat. Now you're in downward facing dog. If your wrists are fatigued, walk your hands closer in towards you so that you're not putting too much pressure on those hands. Tailbone lifts. Maybe the heels can touch in this wide-legged shape. Knees can be bent here or they're straightened. Shake your head no, shake your head yes, and gently holding this stretch with a breath. So we elongate our muscles in yoga. We stretch them. And that's why when yogis tend to have nice, long, beautiful muscles. Not that people who lift weights don't have beautiful muscles, but they're a little bit they're different. Obviously, they're more clunky. And much larger. And then lower the knees to the ground. Let's sit down on our heels now for a moment, and let's do some circles of the wrists. And then bring the hands back to the thighs. And we're going to come back to hands and knees or on forearms. This time you're going to take your left leg, reach it back. Toes stay on the ground, and you'll do a few little rocks and rolls forward and backwards just to kind of loosen up that leg and your ankle and your toes. And then you come back to stillness. All 5 toes are pressing into the ground, looking down in front of your hands, not looking back. And you don't need to look at it, you just feel. And then left heel, that heel presses back. So think about opposing forces here. Crown of the head reaches forward. From your hips back, reaches back. And draw the tummy muscles in and up so you're using those abdominals. And feel the stretch in the calf muscles, behind the knees, hamstrings, glutes, breathing in. And breathing out. So you sometimes feel like, oh, I'm not doing much. You'd be surprised how much you're doing by holding these. And then from here, just lift that left leg up now, just hip height. Flex the left foot, toes pointing down. Now, and then don't forget the tummy. What's going to happen is going to sag. Pull it in and up. Kick your left heel back, toes slightly in towards your shin. So now you feel the stretch and the strength working as one. And then from here, bend your left leg and bring your left knee behind your right. Open the feet wide and press, and then sit back into your twisted child's. This is a nice relief. Pressing back. Now, if it feels nice, if it feels good to just kind of move a little bit to loosen up after holding those stretches, feel free. We're not rigid in yogi as you have to do it this way. It's really up to you. But if I'm concentrating on passive, I'm going passive stretches, I want to just emphasize that. And then bring your hands over to the left on that diagonal. Still in that twisted leg shape, bring your right bottom cheek towards your left heel. Turn your head looking down or over your left shoulder. Close the eyes and feel the stretch through that right hip. Breathing in and thinking about those opposing forces. Long, lean muscles. That's what we're creating here. Flexible muscles. If you do a lot of weight training, you might be less flexible. Your muscles become really big and cumbersome. Uncross that left leg. Do a few little hula hoops or cat and cows. You choose. You make that decision for what your body is needing. And then coming back to stillness, curl toes under, downward facing dog. We're not there long, I promise. We're going to take a little walk to the middle of the mat. And then bend those knees and take hold of the opposite elbows with opposite hands. Take a pause here. And if it feels nice to sway a little bit, to get into that dynamic stretch, loosen up a little bit. And then really either keep the hands on the elbows or release the hands to the ground. Your knees can stay where they are or you can straighten them. Drop your head, and we're going to stay here in a passive stretch. So find the comfortable place. Make sure the feet are pressing in and out. So there's in other words, you're on all four corners of your feet. The toes are not gripping the mat. Your head is relaxed. Now think about the opposing forces. Your feet are pushing downward as your tailbone lifts up. Your back lifts up. Your head drops. You're folding in two. So the opposing forces are now, the tailbone is let's say your head. You're always creating space. That's what we're doing consistently in yoga. And then bend the knees. And then take your right hand underneath your face. This is where you might want your block. Bend your right knee, left leg straightens, and left arm reaches up to the sky. As we stretch here, think about opposing forces. Right hand presses down, left arm reaches. Yeah? And if you want a little circling of the wrist, I'll throw dynamic stretch in. And then lower left hand down. Rebend both knees. Just shake your head no. Shake your head yes. And left hand, place it underneath your face. Left knee bends, right leg straightens. Reach that right arm up to the sky. Stretch and circle that hand around. A few times in one direction, a few times in the other. And then lower that right hand down. And then just both arms, bend those knees, and we're going to gently roll ourselves up. Dynamic stretch. As we lift up into our Tadasana, our mountain pose. And once we've lifted, I'm going to just walk over here so you can see. You're going to bring your arms up towards the ceiling, interlace them except for the index finger. Press down with your feet. Take an inhale, stretch. Think about waist and up towards waist and towards the arms, upwards. Hips, feet downwards. And then lift the chest up towards the ceiling. And we're going to pause here, breathing in. And breathing out. It's like a ballet dancer. Look at their lean body. They're doing similar things to what yogis are doing. And then release the arms down next to your sides. Just shake it out. And then bring your hands behind your back, roll the shoulders in, lift the hands off your back. So now you can open up the front of the shoulders. And we're going to pause here for a moment. Lifting and spreading those shoulders. And then bend the knees. And then keep the hands on your back and then start to lift them up as you fold forward. Coming into your forward bend, lifting the arms off your back towards the ceiling. Little dynamic stretching would be to roll the shoulders in towards each other. That might feel really good. Little sways of the hips. And then come back to stillness. Release the hands to your back and let the hands slide down the backs of those legs. Feel the hamstrings and then behind the knees and the calves and the ankles. And just pause here for a moment. Maybe your hands can actually cup your heels. Resist the urge to always move. The breath is helping, is continuously moving the body or internally. But to move, we spend a lot of time moving. Then release the hands to the ground, step back, downward facing dog, and then come onto your knees. And then onto your right hip and swing your legs forward. Ease yourself onto your backs. Stretch now through the arms, through the legs. Think about though that you're two parts, or several parts sometimes, but now two parts. Waist up, stretch, hips to feet, stretch. So you're being pulled in two opposing directions. And then hug your knees into your chest. We're going to go into a spinal twist. So we're going to have an opportunity to hold a little bit longer than we normally do. Arms out to the sides. Turn your gaze to the right. Palms are up. And breathe in. So think about opposing forces here. Arms stretching away from each other. Right hip stretching to the right. Left side of your chest, even your right side, well no, your right side is, left side of your chest is pulling to the other side. So there's all these different opposing forces occurring in one pose. Creating space and flexibility in the body. And then pick your knees up. Give yourself a hug, forehead to knees. And then lower head down, knees over to the right. Arms out to the sides. Turn your head to the left. So looking away from your knees, creating those opposing energies. So we're going away from, so our bodies are consistently being pulled in different directions. If that makes any sense. But in order to be flexible, we don't want to be just like one solid mass. We have to be this mass that can move easily in all different directions, just like a cheetah. Think of a cheetah. Think about a jaguar. Just think of all these different animals that also use their entire body to move. Bring your knees back up. Give yourself a hug. And then let's prepare for our Shavasana. Shavasana is a pose. It's not, oh, I'm resting, I'm done. No, you're in a pose. You're in a yogic pose. You're going to slide your shoulder blades down. Your palms are up. Your feet are gently opening, but it's resting. But it's a pose. So in other words, I want you to hold this. Let the body relax. Let the muscles rest. I will guarantee you that by the end of this week, you'll feel so much better. If not, if you haven't already started that, feeling that way. And you continue resting for another 2 to 5 minutes as I come up to seal this practice. Passive stretches today with a few little dynamic thrown in. Before exercise, dynamic stretches, or
preferred. Passive stretches after. Both have their benefits. Both are extremely important. As I bring my hands in front of my heart to seal this practice, if you enjoy my classes, I do teach live. If interested, you could look above for my website or in the link below. Thank you so much. Namaste.